So, covered this before, but it's still interesting. These articles keep popping up. They're pointing out that U-Haul, all of their trucks are in Texas, and they would pay money to get their trucks back because it's a one-way street. People from New York, California are moving to Texas, Arizona, moving from blue states to red states. And the interesting part about it is why. Is it the taxes? Is it the COVID policy? Is it remote work opportunities that people can actually don't have to live in a city that they hate? But you can clearly see that something is politically going on. You can clearly see from a chart that blue states are losing population, high-tech states losing population, and red states are gaining population, which is very interesting. Now, of course, I would completely love to see what would happen if you dissolve the federal government completely and let the states take care of everything. And then you'd see huge migrations because you can't migrate to escape the federal government unless you move out of the U.S. completely. But if you on a state level, then the sorting can really happen. It would be amazing, states with like low taxes, it would make a huge difference, and I think that would just crush the left socialist project once and for all. Once these states like California or Vermont or whatever, or New York, they would basically all companies would just leave. They would have to get competitive. They would have to all their welfare programs and all their vote buying schemes would end pretty quickly as like a huge exodus of companies, and people would just leave. And why are people leaving now? Well, probably people are not even political. The left claims that California, because of all their welfare and stuff like that, it's such a utopia, but at the end of the day, it's not, because the cost of living is really high. People not political, they just know it's really hard to get by in Los Angeles, California, or San Francisco. Everything extremely expensive, housing extremely expensive, everything the life's is harder. Why is that? Well, that's due to bloated government. They might not realize that, but they know in Texas or Arizona, you can get a way more house, your money goes a lot further, you're just a lot more bang for your buck. And I think COVID has, God damn these stupid ads. I think COVID has accelerated the technology by 10 years. If it wasn't for COVID, people would still be going into work. Remote working would not be a thing. Maybe it would still be a little bit of trickle, but yeah, we're 10 years into the future, and I'm glad of that. I mean, as someone who does remote working, this is a very good development. And the genius stroke during the Trump's tax policy, basically, he will cap the SALT tax, the state and the local tax that you can't deduct anymore. That really put the squeeze on high earners in high tax states too. That was just a genius stroke right there. A new report from Texas Foundation, a nonpartisan group that advocates for lower taxes. Well, I guess that would be really partisan, according to some people. Found that a growing number of Americans migrated from predominantly blue states like California and New York to red states with lower taxes last year. The findings are based on U.S. Census data, as well as new information released this week by U-Haul and United Van Lines. Although the entire population as a whole grew by just 0.1%, this is a problem, I believe. I mean, if the population is getting older, and we have so many people on Social Security and all these benefits and less people working, it's just deflationary. The economy is just going to, with our debt, with our incredible debt, no choice but to grow the population. No choice, unless we want to see huge declines and stagflation. We just can't have the aging population because our Social Security, a whole bunch of our economy is set up as a Ponzi scheme. But anyway, that's for a different video. July 2020 and July 2021 are record low. Census data underscores the major differences in population growth at the state level. For instance, New York, which has one of the highest tax burdens in the nation, saw population decline by 1.8% between March and July. But Idaho, with one of the lowest tax rates, actually saw population size grow by 3.8%, beyond the national trend. Interesting, interesting. These pictures painted by a population shift is a clear one of the people leaving high tax, high cost states for lower tax, low cost alternatives. Jared Walzak, the tax foundation analyst, wrote in the report, the individual income tax is only one component of overall tax burdens, but it's often highly salient and illustrative here. Yeah, that income tax, the individual income. I mean, the state income tax is a thing. I mean, but how the thing is here too. Economists point out that even though technically these American states are competing for citizens and want people to migrate there, it's not as intense. It's not as real competition as a business, because with a business, you compete away the competition, you get the business, you get to keep the profits. So the competition is a lot more intense. These governors are doing it for prestige, or like the people who are running the states. But it's not. It could have been, the competition. And at the end of the day, they don't get paid anymore. They don't get to keep the extra tax dollars that their state earns. Even if their economy grows, their population grows, it's nice for them that it's nice for their legacy. They get a nice pat on the back. They feel good about themselves. But if they don't get to keep that money. I think it would be, what if we had private cities where the more people lived in that private city, the more money the actual leaders generated. Now that would become intense competition for people, with your tax dollars going so far. I would say you probably would pay like 1 or 2, 3, 4, 5% of your income, and you would get amazing services. You'd be like living in a city like Disneyland or something. The trend can be found in other high-tax states that are largely controlled by Democrats. Illinois saw population shrink by 1.1%. Hawaii's declined 0.8%, and California fell by 0.8%. On the other end of the spectrum, Utah 2%, Montana 1.8%, Arizona 1.4%. All saw population growth during the pandemic. In all, the average combined top marginal state and local income tax rate was just 3.5 for the top of the 1/3 of states for the population growth. The bottom 1/3 states that saw their population decline, including Washington, D.C. The average, oh God, ads. Where was I? Average combined marginal tax rate and local income tax rate was 7.3.
Have you ever seen messages on...
Jesus, they're relentless. Too bad my ad blocker doesn't work here. 6 states in the top third for population growth forego individual income taxes altogether: Florida, Tennessee, Texas, Nevada, New Hampshire, and South Dakota. While bottom third, California, New Jersey, and New York all have double-digit income tax rates. Even the states with the lowest rate, Pennsylvania, 3.07, has some of the highest local income tax rates in the country. The pandemic has accelerated changes in the way we live and work, making it far easier for people to move. And they have. As states work to maintain their competitive advantage, they should pay attention to where people are moving and try to understand why. Still, there are many reasons that people move, and the tax rate may just be one of many. It's also possible that taxes play no role in someone's decision to relocate. Highly doubt that, but I think probably COVID restrictions had more to do with it. The census data and these industries studies cannot tell us exactly why each person moved, but there's no denying a very strong correlation between low tax, low cost states and population growth, with many states responsible for robust revenue and heightened state competition by cutting taxes. Moreover, these trends maybe only get larger. Yeah, way to go. I mean, I think what would be so terrific and so awesome if not only we have interstate competition, but eventually we'll get private cities or like private countries. This would put the left's critical race theory monster, just completely knock it out, because people the whole thing about the left is why they're forcing critical race theory, why they're forcing this culture war on people. It's because you're stuck with them. You're like in a you're in a jail cell within a and your bunkie is like a fucking mental asylum patient, and he's like forcing you into this thing. Well, if people are free to move, and it's like you have a voluntary city where you have to be admitted, or you have to, everybody just pays like a one fee. That they wouldn't have any more power. They have no. They would have no more incentive. They couldn't expand their. They couldn't use race to divide people. That wouldn't be an effective tool, because, like, let's say, is there critical race theory on a cruise ship or Disneyland? Well, no, because everybody paid an admission, and it's if you disturb other customers, basically you just get booted, right? So this is the same thing, you know. We need new alternatives, and we need something like real competition to these legacy cities.